Welcome to I Wrote That, a podcast for entrepreneurs who are navigating the crazy world of authorship. Whether you're just starting out or already established, we want to help you navigate the publishing world with confidence. My name is Larissa Soehn, and this channel is brought to you by Next Page Publishing. With the help of our industry partners, we bring you the insights on the most challenging, yet most rewarding parts of being an authorpreneur, along with the actionable tips to help you move your brand and your business forward. Don't forget to download your free copy of our book, Author Your Way to Your Next 100K, by visiting nextpagepublishing.net/author-your-way. Let's meet our next guest.
Hello and welcome back. My name is Larissa Soehn and I'm the CEO of Next Page Publishing, where we help wonderful entrepreneurs, thought leaders, speakers, content creators, all of the people that are here to change the world write books so that they can put their energy where it matters, focus in their business where they're going to make the most impact and really scale to the degree that they want for the reason they started this whole business in the first place. And I could not do what I do without this person that we have here with us today. Today we have Jen Nobel, and she is inside the Next Page Publishing team, so this is very exciting. She is our project manager, and she wrote her bio, and so I'm going to add this flair in for her because she never sings her praises high enough. But she keeps clients and the team on track. Yes, she is even emailing me being like, deadlines, are you on it? So she manages all our deadlines. She ensures we have a smooth project flow. She has a very incredible keen eye for organization and make sure that everything is running efficiently on the back end. And this is really why a lot of people hire us, is because they don't want to do what Jen is doing. And so we're so grateful that Jen is doing this. She and her husband purchased their first property last year in rural Alberta and are working on building a homestead with their 1.5-year-old son. Welcome, Jen.
Hi, Larissa. Thanks so much for having me.
It's really great to have you here because I made you book the podcast episode, or Aaron made you book the podcast episode, you're like, I don't know, what are we talking about? Like, project management's not sexy. And I'm like, you have no idea. We have to tell people what you do to help us even make, publishing a book in under a year possible. So why don't you just give us a little overview of your role?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm glad that that you think people will want to learn more about project management. I mean, I know I love systems, I love processes, but I could totally understand that that's not everybody's cup of tea. So coming in to Next Page, I joined in January, so it's been a few months now. And my role was essentially to streamline things. Take the little bits and pieces that were happening that weren't really in a repeatable or scalable process and turn them into that. And I've worked in project management in various different size businesses, different industries, different timelines, and growing goals for those companies. So I've seen a lot of different ways that people think they're growing their business, and the people who are actually doing the business on the back end are doing an incredible job. But for me, and this is why I work in project management, but there's just always such low-hanging fruit in terms of streamlining processes. So much time can be saved, so much money can be saved, so much headache and burnout and unneeded stress can just be so greatly reduced by creating things that are repeatable and scalable, especially when you're trying to grow a business. You can't be working off of this choppy, outdated process that every time you write an email or every time you go to pull up a file, you have to think the process through every single time. That's a straight recipe for burnout. So hopefully by taking what the brilliance that you guys already had and just making it a clear process for the team and for our clients, that the business can just scale indefinitely.
Mm-hmm. And that's really important this is what I love about the team behind Next Page, is that we are also all entrepreneurs. We think like entrepreneurs, we breathe, that we read like entrepreneurs, we consume, we create, because we are all at our heart entrepreneurs. And that's why we work so well with our clients. And I think a lot of people underestimate, what it takes to bring a book out into the world. A lot of people think they can DIY it. And you can, and I'm not saying you can't. I DIY'd my first 2 books. It was great. I was the project manager, I was the author, the self-editor for a lot of it too. And when the budget is tight, that's may be the only option. But when we start to get more capital and we start to put more value in our time and just fully understanding what it takes to learn these skills and to manage it on top of the other things we are doing, you start to look at someone like Jen's role and you're going like, okay, I can start to justify having someone full-time on the payroll to manage this for not only myself, but for my clients. So the journey with Next Page is, we go from idea on day 1 to published book roughly 12 months later, right? That's our claim to fame, if you want to put it. And that book is built around systems itself. So Jen, let's walk through it. Like from the moment we get a lead that we've converted into a client and we're welcoming them into the Next Page family, what generally happens?
For sure, yeah. So, we definitely have a little couple days right at the start, which is just our onboarding, right? So we're not just signing you, saying, hey, right now, you're going to start writing. It's not this aggressive, startle of you don't know what's going on, you don't know what's happening. We do have, a handful of days where we're making sure you've got everything you have everything you need. You're set up with all of our systems, be that Google Drive or Dropbox or whatever people are using. You've got your systems in place, initial meetings, they know who the team is, there's no surprises. I think that stage of project management is often very much overlooked. When there's no onboarding, there's often a lot of questions that come up further down the line. They're like, well, what about this? Oh, I didn't know I was saving files here, or I didn't know this or that, or who's this random person? And, just by having those first few days right at the start makes everything go much smoother. Mm-hmm. So we always start with a good onboarding. And then we get into the meat and potatoes of it. Usually the client will be meeting right with their coach for the first 6 months. So there's that 6 months, right, is usually like 1 month of planning where the author and their coach are looking at things from a bird's eye view, doing the big brush strokes of the book. And then 5 months are really spent doing the nitty-gritty, doing the writing. So in terms of project management, a lot of that is just making sure that they know that they've got 5 months to write. And if they want to, start writing in the planning phase, that's fine. You can have 6 months to write. The intensity of the project management is a lot less during that time. It's really giving the author the space, the time to be creative, to obviously bring the book to life. But that 5 or 6 months can easily go sideways. If people let other priorities in their life take hold, obviously life happens and sometimes that has to happen, but it's depending on the author, right? It can be easy to get sidetracked, and 6 months can very quickly turn into 8 months, 12 months of writing. And I'm sure anyone who's tried to write a book on their own knows that it probably has taken at least a year if you don't have a coach and a team or anyone behind you to actually finish writing the book itself. So getting a book written in 5 or 6 months is a feat. And we are the people that try to hold you accountable for that. So you do have a team to make sure that you stay on track with that.
Yeah, you're a project manager and you're the one tapping the internal team of making sure we're staying accountable. But it's the coach really that is stepping up to the plate in that, then responsible for making sure that the author is staying on track and is feeling confident in themselves, right? We were just talking about this with the group program that we have coming out, and how are we going to make sure we get the results we want for our clients? And a big, big part of it is that accountability and building up their confidence. So those first 4 chapters of a book, they're always rough. I actually did the math the other day. This Author Your Way that's going to be coming out later this year is my 12th book to be published. It's book number 12. And I can guarantee you those first 4 chapters were still a garbage dumpster of mess when I wrote them. But it takes confidence, right? Confidence in you, confidence in your topic to really get there. And that's where most people honestly don't make it past chapter 4 because it's so rough. And so in the very early days, our coach is so important to just keep you moving forward. So we've got accountability sessions every week. You've got to check in one-on-one with your coach. If you're in the group program, there's trainings every single week. And then when it starts to fall off the rails, because there is always the when, it's rarely an if. It's when Jen gets involved, right? She starts to figure out, okay, problem solving. It's not in a bad way, right? She starts to do the problem solving, like, okay, just understanding the consequences of if we do let this slip. If you wanted to publish in June, but now you're slipping in the writing, Jen is the one who does all that fun math of like, okay, well, if you slip here, you're not publishing until August. Is that okay with you? And a lot of the times the authors are like, nope. And that's all they need to get back on track, right? So I just wanted to point that out. The project management, yeah, you do step back, but you're the one that, like during the writing portion, you're the one that often is the kick in the ass to get back to being motivated and doing it. It's actually surprising to have 2 to 3 layers of accountability that it actually does end up getting to you. But honestly, writing a book is not easy. That's why people hire us.
Absolutely. And yeah, during that writing phase, sometimes I am the project manager of the coach during that phase, not necessarily the client, right? Because the coach and the client are working so closely together. They build such a good, trusting relationship that I get it. The coach doesn't maybe always want to be the bad guy, right? They're trying to be supportive. They are putting all of their good energy into their client. And so sometimes I have to be, talking with the coach on the side, being like, hey, I think you're not going to hit this deadline. I think you need to push a little bit. So, I can come in and unfortunately be the bad guy sometimes. The fingers can be pointed at me for cracking the whip. And then that maintains that great relationship between the coach and the client. If there's kind of this third party coming in and being the bearer of bad news or just crunching the timeline a little bit, for sure.
Yeah. Jen's also the one that gives out our gifts, though. Like when we onboard a new client, she's the one who sends the welcome gifts and our thank you gifts and stuff. So she's the bad guy, but she also gets to be the good guy sometimes.
Yeah. I'll give you presents if you meet your deadlines.
Yeah, exactly. So okay, so now that we're out of writing, we've got the 6 months for the planning and the writing, and then we move into editing, and that's where you earn your paycheck. Basically, that's complex, right? Because there's a lot of in between and a lot of back and forth between authors, editors, publishing team. What goes on there?
Yeah, so definitely once the manuscript is done, the project management really kicks it up a notch. And this is where we split that the 12 months where we're bringing a book to life. 6 months is writing, 6 months is everything else. So that second 6 months is intense. And this is where, missing a week here and there can very quickly add up to your launch date being pushed out a number of months. So after your manuscript is done, we jump right into dev editing. And this is where we start collaborating with a lot of external contractors, our editors, our designers. And as you can well imagine, the moment one deadline kind of gets pushed or shifted, everybody else's timelines get pushed and shifted. So it is a bit of a domino effect. And that's that kind of magic soup of being a project manager is, okay, one thing went astray. Now I have to update, 3 or 4 other people and adjust their timelines and make sure that works. So in my own selfish interest, it is nice to keep projects on track just to avoid having to, go down that domino effect and shift a lot of people around. So, that dev editing process takes about 6 weeks, where it goes to the editor, they do their work, then they set it back to the author, and the author gets to review those edits, integrate what they want. Sometimes there's a little back and forth with the coach as well, right? If they need help from their coach to understand why this edit might have been, mentioned, or is this really necessary, or just getting moral support really for that harsh first dev edit that comes in.
I want to talk about that too, because the dev edit is the most terrifying part for authors. Like, I think a lot of them think like it's going to be the writing, that's going to be the hardest part. No, it's the first time you get feedback on your manuscript. I can tell you, having been through this 12 times, I actually have a manuscript out for dev editing right now. And I told my dev editor, who is one of our coaches and one of our editors, Amy Vogel, I said, you need to feed my ego. Like I have an ego. We all do as authors. And this is the first time I've had anyone outside of my immediate circles read this book. And I need to know that it's going well. And it's really a challenge. And that's why we work so closely with our authors through that first 6 months, like you said, to get that relationship with the coach so that they do feel like we are on your side, right? Like we're not here to point out that your manuscript sucks and your stories are weird and your language is off and oh my God, no, we're here to make you look good. We love having Jen kind of in the middle, acting as the buffer between the editor and the author. Sometimes we put the author and the editor in a room together. And sometimes the coach gets back involved to just reassure the author that we're doing this for you, not to you. It's not a punishment. Yeah. So that dev editing spot that's where most of the timelines get funky. Am I right in that, Jen, is in dev edits?
For sure. And it can even happen just as the manuscript is being due, right? People get cold feet. They don't want to hand over that manuscript right when the deadline is. And so very quickly at the start of dev editing, the timeline can already go astray because someone might feel like they need to spend an extra 2 weeks with it. They're not ready. Their perfectionism gets a hold of themselves and they're not ready to hand it over. So, a lot of that's where, the coach comes in to really, give them the confidence to let the book go. And then certainly if the dev editor isn't ready to start when they were scheduled to, then right, everything kind of has this bit of a domino effect. But certainly having, I think, a project management position, like you said, between an editor and a client really helps reduce that timeline, because if the editor was talking directly with the client, I think there'd be a lot of back and forth. There'd be a lot of what if, why, right? And then suddenly it's been 5 days of back and forth emails, whereas I can just, meet with the editor, grab their info, send it to the client, and they feel like it's not this personal attack. It's me, acting as the buffer, as you said, and there's not as much of that back and forth conversation between an editor and an author. Not that there can't be, like you said, they can have a chat, they can jump on a Zoom call if they need to, but it just helps that time creep, I guess.
Yeah, and I think the only reason, like you mentioned, 6 weeks for dev editing, the only reason we're capable of doing a dev edit in that time, and that's to the editor, back from the editor, and fixed up by the author in 6 weeks, is because they were coaching clients. I can tell you, new manuscripts from new authors, they need a lot more time in dev editing, and they will need a lot more back and forth with their editor than the books that we have done through coaching. And so you're going to pay a lot more if you are doing that portion of it along by yourself. You might even have to end up paying for a second or third rounds of dev editing, because that is really what makes your book a good read. Like it makes it, you're flipping the pages and you're drawn in and people are talking about it because it was so awesome. That comes from dev editing. And I think a lot of people want to skip that, but it don't, especially when it's your brand centerpiece, right? It's incredibly important to get an expert outside of yourself. You cannot self-edit to the level that dev editing requires. And like I said, the only way we can do it in 6 weeks is because our coaches have been there the entire time. So, okay. All right. So we're going to take a really quick commercial break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to finish out the process to get you from that dev edits are done, the painful, you've ripped the Band-Aid off, you've taken the feedback, to now line editing, proofreading, design, and all of the good stuff. So we'll be right back with that. This season on I Wrote That, we're not just talking about books, we're giving them to you. My brand new book, Author Your Way, is finally here. And you can download it right now, completely free at booksunlimited.app. That's booksunlimited.app. Inside, you'll learn how to write a business-boosting book that builds your authority, attracts aligned clients, and grows your income without getting lost in the publishing chaos. And here's the bonus. I've included a powerful resource kit to help you plan and start your book. Just follow the instructions inside the book to unlock it. And while you're there, check out a growing library of free reads, business books, memoirs, fiction, self-help, and more. No paywalls, no subscriptions, just powerful stories and big ideas, freely shared by bold authors. Visit booksunlimited.app and download your next chapter, starting with Author Your Way. Okay, so we are back with Jen Nobel, who is our project manager inside of Next Page Publishing, and she keeps the train on the track. She keeps me moving. And earlier in the episode, she had said she's the accountability coach to the coaches. She's talking about me. I am the worst at keeping schedules on track. I don't know if it's the ADG, I don't know what AGG is, but could be that. It's the ADHD. I don't know if it's I just want to be the good guy, but Jen's constantly holding me accountable. I think this morning she was like, do we need a meeting? Should we have a meeting about this schedule that you're already blowing? I'm like, yes, let's have a meeting. So Jen is our go-to gal. She keeps us on track. She keeps the projects running smoothly, and she makes a one-year publishing schedule possible. Now, we've gone through writing, planning, dev editing. We're up to line editing and proofreading. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, just even before I just jump into line editing, I'll just add in the little extra side. While we're running the dev editing, in parallel, we're running the design work of your cover. So, right, we're starting to manage editors and designers kind of simultaneously during this process. So there is a design piece and a dev edit piece. So different contractors, different work's not really overlapping, but they can be done simultaneously during that phase. Yeah.
And again, that's a huge time savings, right? For our entrepreneurs who are wicked busy. If you waited until you were done all of the dev edits, you actually have a significant amount of downtime when your manuscript is out with the editors. And a lot of entrepreneurs and authors don't know what to do with that time. So they let their project lapse and then they get the manuscript back and all motivation is gone. And I think we've done that very, very smartly by putting a design in, because that brings back that fire. People get to see their cover, they get to see their name on the front of it and their imagery, and your book has color now and it's beautiful. That really keeps the motivation very high when you are freaking out because someone's reading, your complete stranger's reading your book and they're critiquing it and you know it's coming back with the red pen. To have that, I'm not going to call it, it's a side project, but it's not a side project. To have that activity going on to keep you distracted and motivated is really, really smartly done. I don't know if I did that or you did that, but congratulations to either of us.
I think it was a group effort, but you probably came up with the idea initially. But it is nice. So when you're done the dev editing stage, that means you have, a almost fully edited manuscript and a book cover. So that feels just like you've made it over the hump. You're into some fun parts of your book. And then that leads us right into line editing, which is a 4-week process. So a couple of weeks with the line editor and then back to you again through the project manager and then you review those edits and integrate them as needed.
Yeah, and those are so much later. That's the fun stuff. I've used the same editing team for 4 books in a row now. I've gotten to the point where when we use Ruth for a lot of my books she's worked on, and I've gotten to the point where I know her and I trust her enough that I basically just hit accept all on her rejections, or her exception is her rejection, her edits. Excuse me, that all came all jumbled up. Anytime she says you should do this, I'm like, yes, please. You know better than I do. So the more you know your editor, the more you trust your publishing team, the easier that becomes to just accept, reject. And you can do that in 2 days to get through all of that.
Right. And then we jump right into interior design. So once dev editing is done, the manuscript has been line edited, it feels really good, feels really tight, then our designer who did your cover will also start to lay out the interior design of your book. So we do a few things during that, right? We've got the designer working on the interior design, then myself and maybe 1 or 2 other people start to work on the beginning stages of your marketing. So getting you a couple of visuals, a couple of 3D mock-ups of your book, some marketing graphics, and the very baby initial stages of the publishing process, which is getting your Kindle Direct Publishing accounts set up. So there's like a few little pieces there that are important for the publishing phase that comes a little bit later, but they're easy to get done while the interior design process is going on.
Yeah. And again, those marketing graphics, like This last 6 months is just such a huge motivation killer because you go from really healthy writing habits. You're writing, let's say you're writing 1 hour a day or 2 hours a week or however you've set your schedule up to feeling like you've got nothing. And so we've tried to fill the pipeline by giving you things to look at, to talk about, to share with your audience, to keep not only your excitement up, but to start building their excitement too. And I know Sam, who is our admin and does most of our graphics and things like that, she loves this process because it's the first time she, as a, blind set of eyes, comes in and gets to see the author's work. And she's always so impressed. She always gives us such amazing feedback. This book looks so amazing. I can't wait to read it, right? And that's exactly what we want, right? You want a team that's just as excited about your book as you are. And I can say this, now that I've stepped further out of the design process, when I get a cover too, I'm like, oh, that's stunning. I cannot wait to dive deeper into that book, right? So it's very, very cool. And it keeps everybody's motivation high to keep going, to push through to the end. Now, the KDP, the metadata side of things, the Amazon metadata, that is an underlooked process that I think a lot of people, just throw in keywords, just pick a few categories. No, there is science behind that. And with the way Amazon is constantly changing, it doesn't often make sense for entrepreneurs to learn how to do this themselves, because unless you have a beat on the industry and what they're doing, you can make a mistake, and it can be kind of detrimental especially if things like bestseller status are important to you. And I mean, there's multiple opinions on if that's even worth anything anymore, given how much the market has changed in the last year. But if it's really important to you, then it's not something you want to DIY. You do want to have somebody who knows what's happening in the industry.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And this has been my biggest learning, is just understanding the nitty gritty and all those little details that go into the KDP process. It's not just open, upload manuscript, upload cover, publish. There is a lot of other small, very critical steps in there that, like you said, allow the author to, hit bestseller if that's important for them, or just have a really great forward-facing book to sell. So for sure.
Yeah. And I want to be on the shelf next to some of the biggest names in my industry, right? And so you've got to know how someone's got to be able to do that dive and find out where they are, or categories they're in, and what keywords they have. That takes time and energy. And it takes investment. Honestly, we've invested in software to help us do that on a bigger scale so that we don't mess it up, because it's important. Absolutely.
Yeah, so after that interior design, start of KDP, and a little bit of marketing, that's about a 3-week process. And then we jump into proofreading. So once your book is all laid out, we've got the digital files, we've got the cover, everything's laid out beautifully, all the editing is done, we send it to our proofreader, and this is another 3-week process. So a couple of weeks with the proofreader, where they just go in with the fine-tooth comb, look for any last little things visually, text-wise, whatever it may be. And then those little edits are integrated by our designer into the final files that will get uploaded into KDP.
Mm-hmm. And that is something unique that I think Next Page Publishing does, is we don't send a Google Doc or a Word doc to our editors for proofreading. We send them the PDF, and that's done very intentionally. So not only is the work obviously as error-free as humans can possibly get something, and it's also, they're looking at the design elements, the layout, the margins and things like that to make sure it lays out well on the page or in the e-reader. And a lot of DIY early authors, sorry, I get the two mixed up because they're so synonymous in my head now. You're an entrepreneur, well, you have to have a book, right? That's just like, they go hand in hand. But authors will send just a Word doc as the proofreading, and then they're on their own for design. And it is shocking how many errors can be created during the design process, especially when you're doing DIYing it and you're not using a professional designer. I mean, we've got Christina, she's incredible. But if you're doing this yourself, send them the fully designed file. And they might grumble a little bit because it's in PDF and they have to work around it a little bit. But you know what? Honestly, you're paying them, and you want to make darn sure that what you're putting out in the world is, again, as near perfect as you can get it. There will always be mistakes. I do want to put that out there too. There will always be mistakes. And now mistakes is a badge of honor because it's been written by a human. There's no mistakes in what AI wrote. So if you have an error in your book, you can be like, yeah, it's because I wrote it. Did you know? All by myself. I wrote that.
AI is going to start to integrate typos in their work just so that they can sound a little more human.
Oh, that would be disappointing. But for now, it's a badge of honor.
For now.
But we put AI free on our books too, right? Because it's really important to us that we don't trick people into thinking our books are written by AI or they're written by AI, and we keep the lines very clean. If you are generating something for content inside your book or on your cover, then it is a human who does it. And that goes with our metadata, that goes with our editing, it goes everything. And as you can see, we've pointed out, I don't know how many roles we've pointed out, 5 or 6 humans that touch your book along the way, because we know we value human power over AI power when it comes to this level of creativity. So we're very close to time here, Jen, but I do want to ask you one specific question because this comes up a lot. So I am a visionary. I think we all can see that as like a red stamp on my forehead at this point. I hire people like you who are the integrators, the doers of the world, the people who are detail oriented, who are good at it. But the people we attract, the clients we attract, they're also visionaries like me. They're big thinkers. They're dreamers. They've built their business up. They've gathered all this experience. They do all this cool shit. So how do we balance schedule and your doer brain with the visionary creative side of the energy that's coming in?
Yeah, and I totally understand. It is a bit of a battle sometimes, and it is a struggle. I come from a creative and design background in addition to project management. So I've always kind of had this split brain of, I love creativity and I love design work, but I also love process and streamlining things. And so I totally understand that creativity just doesn't happen, when I tell you to make it happen. It's not like, okay, you have 2 weeks to do this and suddenly you have it. And then you can write it and it's there. I understand totally. Sometimes creativity hits you at 3 a.m. and sometimes it's at 4 p.m. and sometimes there's 4 days that go by where there's nothing. So totally, it is hard. I think that one of the most important pieces of advice I've ever received from a mentor, because I do also struggle with perfectionism at a lot of times, is that in our case, when you're putting a book out into the world, if you're struggling to let it go or you're struggling to write or whatever it might be, is it good enough for now? And is it safe enough to try? So if you are trying to be or if you feel extremely under pressure and you just can't write, just write it really bad first. Just get it down first. Just write what you can, get it down, and then you get it good later. So I totally understand if, the deadlines that we put are difficult to hit sometimes, but you don't have to get it perfect the first go. Right. There are layers and iterations and time built in for you to make those changes. And the creativity can come over many months instead of here's a 1-month deadline. You need to get it perfect and write it and do it. Absolutely not. Just write it down. Is it okay for now? Is it good enough for now? What's the harm if you launch this right now? Is it safe enough to try? Usually the answer is yes. So you can get it out there and feel guilt-free about that and know that you've got a whole team, editors, designers, myself, Larissa, who will put an eye on it and make sure that the creativity that you want to put in it is there and that you have the time to make those tweaks and those iterations that are needed.
Yeah, I love that. I wrote it down. Is it good enough to try? Or sorry, I want to put it all pretty so that I can put it in a social media post. Say it again.
Is it good enough for now? And is it safe enough to try?
Yeah, I love that. And I cannot tell you, like, if you looked back, if anyone wants to see what a book looks like from rough ADHD brain to the point where I get it to a dev editor where I even have to step back and say, it's good enough. Like, I can't do this anymore because there reaches a point where I just nitpick, right? That perfectionism takes over and it will never be good enough by my standards. But if you want to see how many versions of Author Your Way I've gone through to get to the point where I could send it to Amy for dev editing, I think I'm up to like 6 different drafts. And that took me 8 months to get there. Which is longer. It's the longest it's ever taken me to write any book was 8 months. And it's because I didn't follow the advice of Next Page Publishing and get a damn coach. So learn from me. I should have had a coach right from the very beginning. I would have saved myself a lot of time. But I got cocky, right? I thought, I've done this before. I can do it again. And Jen has been paying the price every month when she's like, is it done? And I'm like, get off my back. My God. So when you have to tell your boss to like get it together, you've got a good team. So Jen, I'm so grateful for everything you do for this company, for our clients. I know our clients are grateful for you. It's been an incredible 5 months of growth and scaling and getting those systems set up so that we can focus on the things that make real impact, right? Not the nitty gritty background stuff. That's no fun. Let's focus on the fun stuff. So thank you for everything you do.
Thanks for tuning in to I Wrote That. Don't forget to download your free copy of Author Your Way to kickstart your journey as an authorpreneur. You'll find the link in today's show notes. And if you enjoyed today's episode, we'd love for you to leave us a review. It helps more listeners like you discover the show. Until next time, happy writing.